Welcome back to Cozy Games and Reddit Stories. In these videos, I'll be playing a cozy game and reading from certain subreddits or sticking to a theme. Today we're going to play Minecraft and I'll be building a cozy cottage, and today's theme is crazy families. Some are funny and some are truly insane, so focus up or just relax as we delve into some stories and play some block game. Our first story today comes from r/relationships. My dad thinks that it is none of my business if he cheats on my mum or not. Hi Reddit, recently I, 18M, created a post about finding out my dad, 43M, was attempting to cheat on my mum, using Tinder and other messaging apps as an excuse to practice his English speaking. A lot of people suggested I tell my mum, so I told my dad if he doesn't tell her himself, I am going to tell her, and I did. The day after, when he came home, he was sitting alone on the balcony, so I took this opportunity to sit and talk with him. He told me whatever he does regarding his relationship with my mum is none of my business, and he provides us with everything we want. He feels his conscience is very clear and proceeded to tell me about his terrible childhood when his dad used to beat his mum and he would keep his mouth shut, and said, "And here you are disrespecting your dad." I tried to argue and I said any normal person would say this to him, but we kept drawing circles in the argument, which is his usual strategy to escape arguments. It's like he acts stupid on purpose. So to escape this circle, I told him that I make him proud and I want him to make me proud, and that is only if he has a healthy conversation with my mum and fixes the situation and apologizes. We hugged each other and my mum came to talk with him and she told me to go upstairs and I obliged. Today, my mum wasn't looking happy and told me about the conversation she had with him. Apparently, he told her he can do all he wants and even cheat because he provides for the family and he demands respect. He also denied my statements about him cheating, never apologized, and even insulted her. She can't just divorce him because she relies financially on him. And my dad can't really either because we are the only thing going on in his life and he is probably not going to get married again at 43. So it seems the only option is to fix this somehow. I don't know how I'm supposed to deal with this and him. What should I do? TLDR, found out my dad cheated on my mum, told my mum. He said he can do whatever he wants because he is the dad and he provides for his family. Okay, so this is not this person's responsibility. I mean, the only thing they can do is be there for their mum, I guess. But it's not their responsibility to try and fix the relationships between their parents. It's not anyone's responsibility to fix the relationship between your parents. It's not something that you can fix, and it's only gonna make you stressed out to try and do that. Someone said you can't fix your parents' relationship and it's not your responsibility to try. The best thing you can do here is make it clear to your dad that you don't approve of his actions and let your mum know you're there for her. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I just said. Another person said, give your mum a hug and take her out for a coffee to chat, really feeling for her and for you. What an awful thing to say and to do to someone. Wouldn't bother talking to your dad again about anything because it won't get you anywhere. And quite frankly, he doesn't seem to care what you say anyway. That's true. I don't think trying to talk to him over and over again is going to do anything. This guy is clearly going to do whatever he wants to do. But yeah, I mean, I found myself wanting to be like, not the asshole, but no, this is not, am I the asshole? This guy is not asking if they're the asshole. But if they were, they're definitely not. But yeah, this is not this person's responsibility at all. Moving on to our next story. This one is kind of different because it was on r/ask Reddit, and we're going to be reading out some of the comments from this. But the original post was, I have a crazy family. Can anyone sympathize? Tell me about your crazy family. I'm 22 years old, about to graduate from college, and my family is a mess. My father is a functioning alcoholic. He has been for years, but recently it has gotten really bad. He fell in a driveway, leaving a graduation party for my friend, and cut up his face really badly. He is trying to justify by only drinking on the weekends, but he will get sloshed to the point where he no longer makes sense and stumbles into the house without saying a word. My sister is restless. There is no better way to describe her. She is almost 25 years old and graduated from college last year. She changed schools and majors 3+ times. She is one of those people who will read about something and then will become totally invested in it to the point it will control her life. Diet, workout tapes, clothing styles, advice, etc. She had a great government job and decided to quit it because she wasn't happy. She is really smart, top of her class, dean's list, and all that jazz, but she is throwing it away. Her boyfriend is a ski bum, and she really just quit the job to work a seasonal job with him, making little to no money. I think she just felt guilty making more money slash being more successful than him and threw it all away. Her boyfriend wants to move to Lake Tahoe, so now my sister wants to move there. She morphs into every boyfriend she's ever had. She listens to his music now, skis, changed her job, uses his slang, and talks non-stop about Tahoe. I can understand changing somewhat while you're in a relationship, but she has totally changed. My mother is the secret leader to this mess. She is an enabler. She brings alcohol home for my alcoholic father and then complains when he's drunk. I could go on and on about this mess, but I think we all know how an alcoholic enabler works. She also enables my sister. My sister and her boyfriend just lost their dog 3 weeks ago. He was hit by a car, and he was a 2-year-old lab slash pit mix, who she insisted was a lab slash boxer. He was a good dog, but aggressive to both people and other dogs. They had a serious lack of control over this dog. Now, 3 weeks later, my sister finds a dog 8 hours away from us and on a whim goes to buy it. This dog is a bull mastiff, more than twice as large as their previous dog. My mum really doesn't want to get her this dog, but allows her to go and get it anyway. We all know that my sister is restless and my mother loves it because she's an enabler. Now everyone is mad at me because I am the only one to tell her she's crazy. She's living with my parents who don't want a puppy, collecting unemployment and trying to save to move to CA. It makes no sense to go out and buy this expensive puppy, whose breed they know nothing about, on unemployment money. TLDR, my father is an alcoholic, my sister is a restless 12-year-old in a 25-year-old's body, and my mother is an enabler. So give me some advice or tell me about your dysfunctional family. Okay, so the only thing I don't agree with OP here, not that they're asking who agrees, but you can leave your job if you're not happy. If you're not happy with your job, go ahead, leave it. There's no point staying in it just because it's a good job and it pays well, unless you like really need the money for something. But if you're not happy in your job, then leave your job. But I'm sorry, the real victim here is that puppy that got ran over by a car. Excuse me. You should not be allowed another dog if your dog got run over by a car, and unless it's like completely not your fault, like someone just swerved in. But yeah, real victim here is that puppy. R.I.P. puppy. So the comments on this are people telling their own story, so I picked out a few of those that were pretty good. This is the best place for this story, I think. In college, I had a hard time convincing my friends that I wasn't born from a family of insane rednecks. They knew that my mother used to have her own .22 that she used to kill squirrels, and that my dad made his own wine in the garage, things like that. It was with a little reluctance that my friend Laura drove with me over to my house one day to pick something up from my father. When she walked in, my dad poked his head out of the kitchen excitedly. "OP, come here," he said. He had a photo album open on the kitchen counter. There was a weird pervasive smell in the kitchen, and my dad began flipping pages. He said, "Did you know your great-great-great uncle came from Sweden? Here is a picture of him with a beard. Although I think he has a beard in all of these pictures. And here is Samuel. But you remember your great-great-grandfather. He played spoons for a traveling band." My friend Laura watched, completely astounded, as my father continued going through recent tidbits of family history. I wasn't surprised. He made it his project a long time ago to completely map out our family tree. After about 5 minutes, he put the photo album down. "Oh," he said, "hang on, come here." From behind the television at the back door, he pulled out a pistol rigged with a laser pointer. "Laser sight," he said proudly. "I'm going to get a golfer with this one." He motioned to a chair on the back of the deck with binoculars next to it. "I never got that hawk that came after our chickens," he said, "but I'm going to get a gopher." Laura and I moved towards the car. She was laughing under her breath. "It's not a bad thing to be a redneck," she said. "It's just that you are one." "No, I'm not," I responded. She said, "You have a shotgun next to your front door." I told her that's for safety. Right before we got into the car and drove away, My dad opened the front door and yelled, "If you were wondering about the smell, I've been making sauerkraut under the sink." I have never been able to live this down. TLDR, my father ruins any chance I have of not looking like a redneck around my friends. This is amazing. This father sounds completely insane in the best possible way, and I love him. And I wish he was my dad. Someone said, "Your father sounds awesome, not crazy." And someone responded, "Indeed, making sauerkraut is a noble pursuit. Besides which, you'll need something to dress the gopher sausage." Oh, oh, dude, that this guy just sounds amazing. I love him so much. We have a few smaller ones here. Someone said, "My crazy aunt fully and completely believes that she invented s'mores." And someone responded to that and said, "My grandma constantly claimed to have invented the peace sign, and she is the sane grandmother. My other grandmother recently tried to eat 30-year-old mayonnaise, which she had been saving in her basement." Please don't eat that, grandma. Grandma, no. And someone else responded to that and said, "Come on, guys, it's not like you're even trying. My grandmother claims to have taken walks into the desert when she would normally never even leave the house to meet John the Baptist, who told her that everyone had it wrong and he was the true Messiah. And then she wrote a book about it. And then she got that book published." Oh, good Lord. Okay. So we have some more from this because honestly, this thread was never ending. Um, we have, let's see, my grandfather cheated on my grandmother with his current wife. He marries another person and cheats on her with his current wife. Then he marries his current wife. Now his current wife's cheating on him. What? I can't even begin to make sense of that, so honestly, I'm not even going to. And someone said a diagram would make this easier. Very true. Diagram would make this easier. Okay, one more. We have, my nearing 50-year-old aunt has serious grandest delusions. She thinks she's rich, important, athletic, intelligent, and an author. It's getting hard to go to family dinners. The worst time was during Christmas. She challenged my brother to a plank contest. She lost and threw up on her pants and had to change into my 16-year-old cousin's miniskirt that she changed out of, then proudly displays it in front of everyone while saying she looks better than my cousin in it. She also wrote a 200-page novel on how skinny she is. Not lying, the entire book is about how hard it is to sell her clothes at garage sales and going to the beach, and thinks everyone stares at her because no one's ever seen a skinny woman before. No one would publish it, so she published it out of her own pocket. And then the following Thanksgiving, wrote in her "I am thankful for" that my book was published. She also taunts my mum with her new jewelry, makes up ridiculous stories of their childhood, and thinks she's the reason my older brother graduated high school. Oh my, some people are truly living in their own world. Also, side note, when I'm reading these stories, I try to keep a straight face or just read them out as if I'm just reading something. But some of these, I just laugh halfway through. I can't help it. They're just so silly. Okay, so moving on from those, we are still going to stick to r/ask Reddit. But this one is, what's something your family raised you doing that you later learned was really weird? And someone said, Catholic mother, Muslim dad. Neither was really practiced. We celebrated Christmas though. And on Christmas Eve night, instead of doing the normal Christmas stuff like cookies, milk, etc., my dad would loudly pretend to violently chase Santa around the house by yelling and cussing him out and throwing his shoe at him, which we would later find in places like the fireplace. Yes, we did get presents. The gag was that after my parents put them out, my dad would pretend to catch Santa in the act and chase him off back up the chimney, hence the unforgettable image of the thrown shoe in the unlit fireplace. It's adorable 30 years later. As a Santa-believing child, it was a little disconcerting, especially since Christmas with my mother's side of the family saw this Santa guy treated with such reverence. This is actually really funny, and I love that it wasn't traumatic and it was just a funny little thing that happened. Moving on, we have quite a big one. And it's from r/best of Redditor update. So it's going to be the original post and then the update to the post. So we have, is my parents' advice destroying my job search? Since I came home from my first year of college in May, I've been looking for a new job to no success. I haven't even gotten so far as to be interviewed, despite having been on a job hunt since May. Finally, in mid-July, I'm getting a glimmer of hope. The bakery department at the supermarket, where I've been a part-time cashier/bagger for over 2 years, is now seeking help. Not only would I enjoy working at the bakery, but I would receive more hours. I'm very hopeful that I will get this job because I've always exceeded expectations in every performance review and am overall a very good employee. However, I worry that the advice from my parents might screw up my chances of getting this job. My parents, who have both not had to worry about getting a job since the early 90s, tell me to visit the manager and check in on the application at least once a day, or call to check in on it. I feel like this would be very annoying for the manager, and I don't want to come off as annoying. Earlier this summer, I was applying to a coffee shop and I took their advice. I went in every day, asked for the manager, and explained who I was, that I had applied, and that I just wanted to check in on the application. My parents even told me to also call later in the day too, which I refused to do, thinking it would just be nagging. I apparently made an impact there because the third time I came into the coffee shop, the head barista looked at me, sighed very loudly, and said, "I'll go get him." 5 minutes later, I was being interviewed by the manager. For 1 minute, literally, I was asked 3 questions, which were just to verify information on the application, and then I was told to stop calling them. They never called back. My parents still tell me to call them, and I feel like it's beating a dead horse at this point. I'm worried that the advice my parents are giving me is one of the reasons why I seem to struggle to get a job. They tell me that nothing has changed in almost 20 years since they've gotten their jobs, and that what worked for them will work for me. I really want to get this position in the bakery. What advice would you give me, or are my parents' strategy correct? It's obvious the parents' strategy is not correct. That's crazy. Going in every single day and also calling. Maybe going in once, maybe calling once. I don't know, just to make sure the application was received. But then, like, you leave it alone, you know? But that original post was from 2011. And in 2019, 8 years later, there's an update. Sometimes when work is slow, I like to hit surprise me on a website, and I was truly surprised when I came across a question I had sent in over 8 years ago. I remembered that I had emailed, exasperated with my parents' advice, and I had been responded to. I felt so validated and reassured. I did, funnily enough, become a barista later on, but I was a liberal arts major and that was my fate. A few years after the incident, I had emailed about my parents relocating for my father's work. My mother then got to experience firsthand the joys of modern job hunting. I had to show her how to make a resume, how to turn it into a PDF, and how to upload it, and reassure her that yes, even though you had just uploaded that PDF, you now have to retype all that information again. She had relocated to the other side of the country and had no network or any modern tools one uses to get a job nowadays. She didn't even bother to check to see what the process was to transfer her nursing licenses, and spent months unemployed while she was getting that figured out. I think she just thought she could walk into a hospital and get a job, just like she had in the 90s. Experiencing their bad advice firsthand ended most of their vintage notions. I'm now newly 27. Your advice was to trust my instincts, and I have. I worked a myriad of odd jobs during and after college and kind of filtered around trying to figure myself out. My parents offered lots of advice as for what I should do, and I have done none of it. After settling into an office job a few years ago, I just accepted a position as an office manager, which will come with a 25% raise. A great thing to get right before my wedding this winter. I read up your posts on negotiating salary, vacation time, and interviewing, and they have been a resource to me for almost a decade now. Thank you for the validation you gave me to my younger self. She was new and deeply insecure, and you allowed her a moment where she could print off a blog post and yell, "See, you're the wrong one," at her poor, misguided mother. I think I may have even hung the response on our fridge. So, yeah, oh my god, that's crazy advice. One, and two, really funny that the mother then had to um go through that herself and realize that her advice didn't work. Someone said, even in high school, I knew not to listen to my parents. They insisted I needed to go in person in my school uniform because then the manager would see that I went to a Catholic school and automatically assume I was more responsible than other kids my age. Then, of course, they'd hand me the phone and breathe down my neck until I called up to follow, which seemed to just piss off whoever had to answer the phone. I got my first job by applying online, waiting to be called, and not saying a word about it to my parents until I needed to ride to the interview. I don't think wearing your Catholic school uniform is going to make you get a job more. I feel like some people, like, it's okay being behind the times, in my opinion. Like, it's okay not realizing, but like them being adamant and not doing any research or even trying to understand, yeah, things have changed. That's where the issue arises. Our next story is kind of a relevant one. My parents were family vloggers. It ruined my life. I, 23F, was raised by parents who family vlogged. They began vlogging in 2013, almost by accident, as a video of my brother went viral. It was something I disliked from the beginning as I was a shy child and that didn't fit in with what my parents wanted from me and my siblings. I wanted to share my story to raise awareness, but please don't try and guess who me/my family are, as it will start a fight with my parents and I'm not in a position to deal with that yet. At the peak of their fame, my parents had around 2 million subscribers. The main demographic was mainly adult men. And now, as an adult, I realized that their content was created towards these men. I was one of 5 girls, all a year apart in age. And those 5 years were an absolute gold mine for my parents. Period videos, getting first bras, having first kisses, all a massive hit with middle-aged creepy men. We eventually ended up being homeschooled so that we didn't have any external distractions and we weren't allowed to make friends unless they were also part of family vlogging channels. Our parents only posted good things. On camera, it looked like our family was perfect, when in reality, my dad was abusing my mum. They were arguing constantly and my dad ended up having an affair. The channel ended when my mum found out and they divorced, which nobody online knows. They blew through the money on drinking, drugs, vacations they went on without us. I barely have a relationship with my parents because I can't forgive them for taking my privacy away from me. Please feel free to ask any questions you have. I just, so I know that not a lot of family vlogger channels are like this, but honestly, I feel like the majority of them probably are. And that just goes with the fact that you can't trust what you see on camera because you don't know what happens off camera. Someone said, for what it's worth, OP, I agree with you. It was unfair, abusive, neglectful, and creepy. That's true. I did not even clock the fact that they were making content about young girls catered towards men. That's creepy and weird and not something a parent does or anyone should do, but especially not your parents. I hope you and your sisters can find strength and support you need from each other, especially your youngest sister. And if not, I hope you find strength and support from wherever you can get it. And of course, if you ever have kids of your own, I hope you never leave them with your parents unattended. Agree. Someone else said, did your friends from other family vloggers feel the same? Or did they actually enjoy the attention? Also, sorry you had to deal with that. It's stressful enough trying to pretend your family is perfect. I can't imagine having to try and broadcast that image to 2 million people. And they responded, nobody enjoys it. But yeah, that's crazy. And I feel for anyone in this situation or having been through this situation. Our next story comes from r/am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for telling my family no more to monthly family dinners? Ever since my dad was a kid, our family has done monthly family dinners. Nicer ones than your average family dinner. It's something our family did when my siblings and I were kids too. We'd have grandparents over, and we'd all have a nicer dinner together. When my siblings and I grew up, we still did it, only instead of what happened before, where branches broke off over time and people did their own. They decided we should include partners, spouses, and our kids as a whole in one. By the time I was 19, the family had decided they would take turns hosting each month to lessen the burden. My wife was excited to be part of them at first. We started during our relationship. I did the cooking to start and then she took over after a while because she wanted to. My family had seemingly gotten along with my wife before this point, but they were overly harsh of her cooking, with the exception of my two younger siblings. She tried to make them happy, but no dice. I told them they could be kinder. They said she should cook better or cook different things. My wife didn't make anything they don't eat, but nothing was right. She grew frustrated and I grew suspicious. So we hosted a couple of months ago. I told my wife we were going to pretend I did the cooking, just to see. She told me she felt like they weren't fond of her food. I pointed out nobody had the same amount of complaints as them, and they even criticized the steak and potatoes they all seemed to go crazy for. She went along with the plan, and when my family thought I'd cooked it, they loved it. Said it was so good, my wife decided to let a real talent take over. They said it was so nice to have something a little different, and all this very lovely stuff. My younger brother and sister weren't fooled, but they enjoyed watching the rest of the family dig a hole. When the rest of my family heard it was my wife's food and not mine, they tried so hard to backtrack on all the nice stuff. The rest of the dinner went in tense silence and my wife's eyes were opened. I told her I was done with these dinners and she was my priority. She felt a little bad. I told her we could have dinners with my younger brother and sister sometimes. It's less stress anyway. When we didn't show up to last month's dinner or this one, my parents and siblings started asking questions. I told them each time we weren't going, but missing two made it sink in. They told me we needed to be there. I said no. My wife doesn't deserve their disrespect. I told them they ruined what they wanted by being assholes to her. They said I was overreacting, making very relationship harming choices, and treating them badly for simply having issues with my wife's food. They also said to think of future kids and how they'll miss out. Some of it got to my wife a little, which I have tried to reassure her about. Am I the asshole? No. Also, good on this guy for just not taking any shit. I feel like a lot of people would not side with their families, but definitely pander to their families and sort of make up excuses and things. But no, he straight up saw that it was wrong and took his wife's side. So not only is this guy not the asshole, he's also a really fucking good husband. Someone said, not the asshole, it's pretty clear the issue isn't her food, it's her. For whatever reason, they don't seem to like her. Good for you for standing up to them. And Opie responded, having that confirmed sucked badly, but I wasn't going to pretend it's okay to treat her this way either. They wouldn't come right out and say it, they tried to hide behind the food. Yeah, I just say it if you don't like something, it's like if you hide around something, like say if someone didn't like you, but they wouldn't tell you the real reason, how are you then supposed to know if it's something you're doing wrong or if they're just being petty? Someone else said, it sounds like your family dislikes your wife, not the cooking. I completely understand why you stopped attending the dinners, not the asshole. But you really need to have a conversation with your family on why they are mean to your wife. It's unlikely this behavior will change just because she stopped cooking. They will start criticizing something else about her. Also, no, you do not want your future children surrounded by people who criticize their mum for no reason. You don't want them thinking it's okay for themselves to act like this or for future partners to treat your children like this. Yeah, I think I've said everything that there is to say on this. This guy's obviously not the asshole, but definitely if they care still, they need to have a talk with the parents and figure out why. I think he needs to have a talk, not include the wife, because it's clear that it's going to make her upset. And then once it's sorted out, he can bring her into it. But yeah, he's obviously not the asshole. Our next story comes from r/best of editor update. So similar to the last one, we're going to have the original post and then we'll have the updated post. So we have, am I the asshole for not feeding my daughter? So my high school senior just turned 18 and is soon to be an independent college student. She has always been mature and tempered, so what happened is something I did not expect. Her father and I are now trying to get her as independent as possible in these few upcoming months before she leaves home. Like any parent would want, the big controversy came a few days ago when we were talking about her graduation over dinner. I made this terribly inconsiderate comment that her graduation dinner will be the last free meal she can expect under this roof. She would not be allowed to grab our leftovers either. Instantly came the cries and yelling as she accused me of starving my child. First of all, we are not kicking her out. We simply asked that she take care of her own meals. She would be almost closer to 18 by her graduation. I do not see how allowing her to be independent is abusive. I told her that she has multiple months to look for a quick job opportunity, learn a few basic recipes, and be prepared. I would be more than happy to help her cook. I just won't be doing it for her. In fact, this is a valuable skill she will need for her whole life. She asked me to write this up on a forum so the internet can show you you're wrong. Again, I'm treating her like an adult and she is one now. Update. There were way more comments than I thought there would be. I'm taking a break off this website for a little bit. There has been convincing points made. What? So that's, I'm sorry that you're not allowing her to be independent. But anyway, to the update. Um, Update. Part of my deal was that I made another update post to my situation, so here we are. A lot has happened since the last post, some good, some bad. As I wrote in the original as a comment, my daughter and I did outline a deal that met in the middle of our desires, which I'll detail shortly. First of all, there has been way too many attacks on me as a mother. I understand the extremeness of the situation, but that is no way to judge a parent in his/her entirety. I can assuredly say that we both love each other, and I have her best interests at heart. Many of you made the point that I should have taught my daughter kitchen skills earlier, pointing the finger at my past. A few of you, as you understood, I was 100% willing to spend the next 5 months doing just that. Why not earlier? Before 12, I did not want her in the kitchen for safety reasons. After that, she never really initiated any interest. After all, she didn't need to. Some of you went as far as to call her spoiled and entitled for having her parents make her meals. She was in no way irresponsible or overly dependent and was successful in both school and her activities. Cooking was just not a priority then. So why did I flip the switch just now? It was truly out of care, or so I thought. I believed a 5 month notice would be plenty to get her up and going, but it caused even more trouble. I've seen parents evicting their child at 18, something I would never do. I do concede that my statement about the leftovers was harsh. Frankly, that night my emotions were getting to me, and I regret stating it as I did. I just wanted to make sure she didn't perceive it as a fake or weak threat, though I went too far. So what's the conclusion? Well, as you read, she wanted me to post again to show that she won. I apologized sincerely for my statements and she did forgive me. Our plan is now largely the same. She will cook alongside me until her graduation as I teach her, until she prepares graduation dinner by herself, her idea. She doesn't hate cooking, she just wants to learn, without the threat of starvation. There'll be no final meal, but I do expect her to be much more involved in the kitchen. Yeah, that was my issue with it. You're not allowing her, you're not saying, hey, you should learn how to cook. You're saying, hey, you have to learn how to cook or you're going to starve. Like, that is not how that works, and that does make you an asshole, especially because you didn't teach her before that. Of course, she showed no interest in it. She was a teenager. What teenager has an interest in cooking? And also 12? 12 to be in the kitchen? What do you have in the kitchen that anything above an 8-year-old can't do? That's crazy. Get a safety knife. Make her cut some vegetables. Teach her how a stove works, or I don't know, the microwave. 12 is kind of crazy. I learned how to cook when I was like 7. So 12 is just insane behavior. Some of these comments are from the original post, some are not. Someone said, "You're the asshole. All of a sudden, you're not a family that eats together anymore because she's graduating. What a terrible parent you are. Typically, with today's economy, kids can't afford to move out right away. There would have been nothing wrong with asking her to chip in for groceries and take responsibility for some of the cooking, but instead, you cut her out. I wouldn't blame her if once she moves out, she goes low contact." Yeah, I forgot to mention this. Post, the original and the update are from 2024. That's only last year. So the economy is absolutely ruined. If this was like 2008, maybe I'd understand it a little bit more. But these were from 2024. Another person said, before 12, I did not want her in the kitchen for safety reasons. My oldest has been making things in the kitchen since she was 6. She's 10 now, and she's responsible for cooking 1 meal a week. We pay for ingredients and help with cleaning up, but it's on her to find a recipe and manage her time. You've not addressed the biggest issue, which is that you thought that this will be the last free meal you will receive under this roof was an appropriate or useful thing to say to your own child. I also hate that comment of being like under this roof. Like if you're under this roof, okay, but you brought the child into this life. This is not just like a random homeless person you found on the street and graced with a home and meals. You brought the child into this world. You have a responsibility to raise the child. It's your responsibility to feed the child. But yeah, that person was an asshole, and now they are not the asshole. Our next story comes from r/best of Redditor update, so it's going to be like the other one where we have the main post, the update, and a few comments in between. So we have, my family loves my ex and keeps inviting her to family get-togethers. My ex and I dated for 5 years. My family adored her, and it was assumed that we would be getting married soon. About a year ago, she broke up with me out of nowhere, saying that I was not enough of a man for her. Brutal, I know. After months of therapy, I started dating somebody new. Now, during my therapy months, my family had already invited her to certain events. My family asked if she could still come, and because I still wanted her back, I said yes. As soon as I started to date someone new, and my ex had attended her last invited event, I thought that would be the end of it. Today, I found out my family invited my ex to Thanksgiving and Christmas. I thought it was a joke, but no, they love having her around. I put a stern warning that if she was invited, I would not be attending. I restated what my therapist told me, saying this was unhealthy for me and was violating my boundaries. My family do not care. They love her. She doesn't have much family of her own and they want her to feel included. My current girlfriend is obviously furious too. Every family member, including my mum and grandmother, are saying I need to treat it as if she were a friend and grow up. I don't know what to do. Any advice? Edit. Thanks for all of the advice. I'm gonna man up and tell them that my girlfriend won't be attending. My family and her have already said it would be a cowardly thing to do to hide from my ex, but I don't give a fuck. These comments reassured me that this is not okay. I'm gonna take my girlfriend somewhere nice and spend Thanksgiving with her. I might even try to organize buying plane tickets and seeing her family for Christmas. I'll keep you guys updated if anything else comes of this. Okay, that's crazy. Also, would you man up? I don't like when people say something like that. Man up, like, okay, what? Tell me the definition of a man then. That's crazy. Um, but we have an update which was made 1 week later. Hey everyone, I appreciate all the advice and kind words I got in my last post. However, I don't have a good update to be honest. Basically, I sent a mass text message to all of my family telling them exactly how I felt and that my ex should not be at Thanksgiving or Christmas, and it was incredibly disrespectful. I told them they needed to choose between me and her, how under no circumstances would I compromise this simple request, that they were choosing my ex-girlfriend over their own son and it was not okay. I also told my ex in a separate text that she was not welcome and I did not care if my family invited her. My cousin messaged me on the side agreeing with me, which was nice. However, the rest of the family did not see it that way. Family members responded with how selfish I was, how I knew she had nowhere to go for Thanksgiving, and that she has become part of the family. I tried to hold my ground by stating how not normal this was to invite someone's ex to Thanksgiving, but they just doubled down that she had become too close to exclude her. My dad said I needed to stop being so immature and making ultimatums like a child. That message got a lot of iMessage likes in the group chat. My ex told me I was being a fucking baby about the whole thing and that this was exactly the reason why she broke up with me, that I could not even handle the possibility of confrontation and that I was going to run away with my new girlfriend. I explained how not normal this dynamic was, and I told her to go back to her family and stop trying to steal mine. She just sent back that it's not her fault my family loves her and stopped answering. I kept battling with my family over the weekend, but no one was budging. My mum had called me explaining how my ex was like a daughter to her, and my actions were breaking her heart. I asked her if she had any sympathy for me, considering my ex broke up with me, saying I wasn't man enough for her. My mum just said how my actions were proving her right, and that kind of broke me. These fights were clearly going nowhere, so I put my money where my mouth is. I decided to book a short trip with my girlfriend and take her to a really nice restaurant. I let her know, and initially she said she would like a nice getaway. However, yesterday she asked me to come over and talk. She said this whole situation with my family was making her extremely uncomfortable, that she felt like she was in the middle of this battle between me, my family, and my ex. She said I was really sweet, but she couldn't be put in a relationship with someone who had this much family drama. I begged and pleaded with her, but she said she put a lot of thought into this and asked me to respect her decision. I'm pathetic. I can't even set boundaries with my own family. I'm going to take the trip by myself and think some things over. I'm not looking for additional advice, someone to spend Thanksgiving, or even words of encouragement. I just want to be left alone. Thanks for all the advice, but clearly I need to work on myself. I think two things are clear. One, my family doesn't like me very much, and two, I can be easily pushed around by people. That's the saddest update I've ever read. Someone said, don't be so hard on yourself. It sounds like you did set boundaries and you're sticking to it. Maybe take some time to find yourself. Yeah, he did set boundaries and he wasn't pushed around. It's sad that he lost his new girlfriend over it though. Do you think your family is trying to force you to change and get back together with her? It sounds like they're going to lampoon any future relationship you have. And they responded and said, I thought about this a lot since my last post. Some people commented on my last post saying that my family and my ex may be conspiring to get me to toughen up. Once I've grown a pair, we would get back together. I personally think it's far fetched, but considering my ex is still around, who knows? Another person said that the OP should get more therapy because things are getting too much for him. And he said, I've doubled up on my therapy appointment, so I'll be okay. It seems like I'll be saving money on Christmas gifts so I can afford the extra therapy. That's at least one thing from it. Um, Another person said, wow, his family and ex deserve each other, and OP deserves much better. Man grew up within a family of bullies and dated a bully. When the bully left him, of course his family preferred the bully over him. He should just go to NC and focus on his own happiness. True. It's it's very upsetting that he feels like this is his fault because it's clearly not his fault. One more comment. Someone said, I was once in a similar situation. My ex was constantly talking to my mum and she invited him for Christmas but didn't tell me. I was blindsided and furious. I looked him in the eyes and told him to get out. He didn't budge and my mum got upset. I took my bag and I said, I hope he takes care of you when you're old and need someone to wipe your ass because I'm out for good. That's crazy to me that someone would prefer not even a boyfriend, but like an ex of your own child. Like exes are exes for a reason. That's insane, but that's honestly really sad. This was last year, so I hope at least there is something better going on in this guy's life now, or he's realized that it's really not his fault. But yeah, that is very, very upsetting. We have another one from Best of Redditor Updates now. A lot of these good family ones are from this subreddit. And also I personally like stories that have updates, so I hope you guys do too. Um, this one was from 2 years ago, and it's my 42F husband 45M has a favorite child and it has destroyed our family. This is a long read. If you can get through it, please give me any advice you can. I want to start by saying my husband is a good man. He provides a very comfortable life for me and our children. He has never been abusive or manipulative. He's never kept secrets or cheated. But he has one huge flaw. He has a favorite child. We have three teenage sons. They are Mason, 18, Kyle, 15, and Sean, 13. Our youngest son, Sean, is my husband's favorite. He knows this. I know this. And what really kills me is that our children know it too. It wasn't always like this. He used to be equally loving to all of our boys, but when Sean was 5 years old, he got pneumonia and was dangerously close to death. It was obviously an extremely tough time for my husband and I, and through the entire hospital stay, Sean always wanted his dad above anyone else. It bonded them. Ever since then, my husband has always favoured and spoiled Sean to the detriment of his relationships with Mason and Kyle. The two older boys noticed as they got older and understandably were hurt that their father always favoured Sean. I had several conversations with my husband and throughout the years about how he needs to realise he has three sons, not just one. He always listened and would make an effort to be more involved with Mason and Kyle, but it never lasted. He'd always go back to being super dad to Sean. This all came to a head today when Kyle's school had an award ceremony that Kyle would be presented an award at. This is, of course, a virtual event as COVID is still an issue and the boys are doing online distance learning. Essentially, the event was just a large group video call where the kids would be recognized for their academic achievements and there was a raffle for several prizes. Kyle was excited because one of the prizes was a game system he wanted. Parents were invited to join in on their own computer to get an extra entry for raffle prizes on behalf of their children. I wasn't going to be able to make it as I had work, but I told my husband to just drop in and watch them read Kyle's name and stick around so Kyle could have a slightly better chance at getting the prize he wanted. Again, this was a virtual event. All he had to do was go to the website and sit there for less than half an hour. School events like this, even pre COVID, were always more my thing. My husband almost never went to these things as he was usually working, but of course there was a higher chance of him showing up for one of Sean's events. But he's working mostly from home and he wasn't even going to be on the clock at the time of the event, and he told me he'd do it. On the day of the event, I reminded him before I left for work to make sure he showed up. I sent him the invite link again while I was at work just to be sure he had it, and he assured me he'd be there. Well, the event came and went. Kyle was in his room on his own laptop for the event, and my husband never joined the group call. I was busy at work, so I couldn't message him back until almost an hour after the event had ended. I asked how it went, and he said he was trying to join, but the link didn't work. I asked him what did he mean he was trying to join now when the event was over an hour ago. He replied, "Oh, I thought you said it was now." I saw red. He missed the event because he got the time wrong. After I told him several times what time and exactly how to join, all he had to do was click the link at the right time. I was furious, but I wanted to wait until I got home to talk to him. So I get home and see our oldest son, Mason's car in our driveway. He does not live with us anymore. He is in college and has his own apartment. I walk inside and Sean is in the living room looking upset. I ask him what's wrong and he says the other boys are fighting with Dad. I asked him what happened and he said he doesn't know, just that Kyle got really mad and called Mason. And when he told Kyle that he and my husband went to get frozen yogurt earlier, I asked what time they went and he tells me. It was 10 minutes before Kyle's event. He missed the event because he chose to take Sean to get frozen yogurt. I learned later that Sean was begging him, and my husband, as usual, caved and took him. At that moment, Mason, Kyle, and my husband all come down the stairs. They're yelling, and Mason has a duffel bag with Kyle's things. I asked what is happening, and Mason said he's taking Kyle to stay with him at his apartment for a while. I told Kyle he can stay the night, but he can't just move in with him. My husband said Kyle is not leaving and he needs to talk to him privately, but Mason blew up on him. He said everyone knows Sean is his favourite and he couldn't tell Sean to wait 30 minutes before taking him to get yogurt. I told Mason I understood his anger, but that we needed to sit down and talk. Kyle joins in and says he's tired of his dad always choosing Sean over the two of them and he wants to stay with Mason. My husband was apologizing, saying he doesn't choose Sean over them, he just made a mistake. Mason challenges my husband, saying you always make mistakes that leave me and Kyle on the back burner, and I told him to try and remember the last time he did something with either him or Kyle alone. My husband listed 2 events. Mason reminded him Sean tagged along for both. My husband said they're family and of course he's allowed to go with. Kyle shouted back that my husband has taken out-of-town trips with just him and Sean 3 times in the last year and a half, and he was right. Sean got visibly upset at this point. Mason said he was sorry and that it wasn't about anything he did wrong, that it was their dad's fault, not his. Sean went upstairs to his room. My husband started after him, and Mason said, "See, you've got 3 upset sons and you still run off to coddle Sean." My husband said that's not true and he's just more sensitive than the other boys. Mason told him he wants so badly for Sean to be the only son, then he can have his wish. He said not to call or text him or Kyle anymore and that they don't have a dad anymore. Kyle added, "You already act like we don't exist anyway." My husband's face dropped. The way he was neglecting our 2 older boys finally hit him. I was a sobbing mess. I could see the hurt in both my sons' eyes. I told them to stay so we could talk and find a solution. Kyle begged me just to let him leave, saying he didn't want to be in the house anymore. Mason hugged me and assured me he'd make sure Kyle got his schoolwork done and he'd call me tomorrow. I let them go. As much as I want Kyle here, I know he needs time away from my husband. My husband went to the kitchen and cried. He's never been an emotional man, but the reality of our two older boys wanting to go no contact with him finally knocked some sense into him. I wanted to yell and scream at him. I told him for years he needed to stop favouring one child. All he had to do was show up one goddamn time for Kyle. I'm so angry. Instead, I told my husband I love him. I know he's hurt, so I'm not going to yell at him. But I told him I love my children more, and that if he didn't fix things with the boys and start treating them equally from this moment forward, I would be divorcing him. He just said, I don't want to lose my family. He started to get up, saying he should make sure Sean was okay. I told him I would check on Sean for once, and he needed to think of his other sons. I admit I was passive aggressive, but my blood was boiling, and I was trying my best not to tear my husband down any more than my son's parting words had. I spent the next hour consoling Sean and reassuring him that his brothers don't hate him, and that their issue is with my husband and not him. He said they won't text him back, and I said he needs to give them more time. I'm emotionally exhausted. I don't know what to do. My husband is sleeping in the guest room tonight. We've never not slept in the same bed unless one of us is out of time for a reason or another. Is it worth divorcing my husband over this if he doesn't fix it? The only big issue we've had in our marriage is he broke my children's hearts. And even if we do stay together, I don't know if I can ever forgive him for that. I feel like a failure as a mother for not being more assertive with my husband and not interfering throughout all these years. I also feel like it may be too late for him to make things right at this point. What do I do? What can I do? She said that she feels it's her fault for not being assertive, but I think she had been assertive. Some relevant comments from this original post. Someone said, light a fire under your husband's ass. Don't let things settle. It's easy to do. Don't let him get relaxed like things will just blow over either. You get that man doing good because you know he can. I hope his eyes are open to the truth so you don't have to. Another person said, right now, just be there for your sons, all of them, when they need you. As for the relationship between your two oldest and their father, the ball is in Mason and Kyle's court. If they ever decide to mend the relationship with their father, he needs to make every effort to be involved in their life. It's really important that it's not forced upon them though. There is a good chance it will have a negative effect and only make things worse. That's true. I know she's upset about it, but I think that you need to leave it up to the sons. If they want to go no contact, they go no contact, especially if you're considering divorcing him over this. Of course, as per the subreddit, we have an update. I posted a few weeks ago about an issue with my family, and there were a decent amount of people who gave great advice and reassurance on what I was already feeling. I am so incredibly happy to say that this is a good update, great even. First, regarding my sons, Mason called me the next day as he promised and said Kyle was settling in fine. I asked how they felt about Sean, and Mason said that he and Kyle talked last night, and while they don't necessarily blame Sean, it's still hard not to be slightly angry at him, especially because we can all see that Sean does realise he's the favourite and he leans into it. In the end, both boys texted Sean that they weren't mad, but they needed time away to cool off. Sean was of course sad, but I did get through to him that sometimes people just need space. A couple days later, I dropped Sean off at Mason's apartment and the boys had a movie/game night. I'm not sure what was said, but Sean came back much happier and his brothers are texting him back again. I knew they would be okay, but I'm glad Mason and Kyle are mature and kind-hearted enough to not hold their anger towards Sean. Regarding my husband, I admit I was weak and I caved the night of the incident. I went into the guest room and my husband was still awake and on his laptop. I asked what he was doing and he showed me the screen. He was searching for therapists. I never brought this up as a suggestion, he did it on his own. I asked why he was looking for a therapist, and he said he feels like he's only going to get one chance to make things right with the boys, and he wanted a professional to tell him the best way to do so. It lifted so much of my fears and anxiety about how he felt. I cried and I told him to come back to our room. He took the next day off work. In our entire 22 years of marriage, he has called out of work less than 5 times. He talked to 3 different therapists for roughly an hour before deciding he liked the second one. He's an older man with adult children, and my husband said he felt like the therapist could relate to him and understand his situation best. I was so proud of him. His therapist suggested sending a short apology and promise of working on himself. Both his therapist and myself read the text, but did not change or influence him in any way. The words are entirely his own. He wrote, I'm sorry I messed up. For years I messed up. I hate that I let it get to this point, and I hate that I hurt you both so badly. I love you. I will always love you, and I know you may not want to talk to me right now, but I've just started therapy, and I hope in time that you boys will forgive me and give me a chance to be better for both of you. There is so much more I want to say, but I would like to say it in person. You can always call me, text me, or even come home when you're ready. Anytime, I will drop whatever I'm doing, and when you're ready to talk, please don't hesitate to reach out. I love you boys. Love, Dad. Kyle called me a couple hours after my husband sent the text and asked me to come over. I did. Mason and Kyle were there and they asked me if their dad really wrote the message. I assured them that he did and reiterated that neither I or his new therapist wrote a single word of his apology. It was all him. They admitted it felt good to know that he did care, but they needed time. A week went by with no response to my husband's text, then another. He was heartbroken. He broke down in our bedroom one night and just cried, saying he ruined his relationship with his sons and they were never going to forgive him. I reassured him that that wasn't the case, but it was hard for him to accept. I told him he needs to keep talking to his therapist and focus on himself. His relationship with Sean changed as well. Even though he was the only son he had in our home, he started to spend less time with him, and Sean was completely fine with this. His therapist helped him to realize that he was always the one initiating hangout time with Sean. He'd go to his room and ask Sean if he wanted to do something, or he'd tell Sean to go with him when he went to pick up dinner or go run errands. 5 days ago, Kyle finally texted my husband asking if they could talk. My husband said absolutely and asked where Kyle wanted him to go. Kyle said he and Mason wanted to come to the house. My husband, true to his word, called his boss and said he needed the rest of the day off for a family emergency. I dropped Sean off at my mother's house so the boys could talk openly to my husband without worrying about hurting Sean's feelings. They came over and we all talked in the living room. It wasn't easy, we all cried, but my husband did everything right. I repeat, he did everything right. He apologized. He didn't deny his favoritism. He told the boys about his work with his therapist and how it was helping. He said he's learned he justified his favoritism by telling himself that he and Sean were just closer, but he now realized they were only closer because he was putting the majority of his time and effort towards Sean instead of all three of the boys. My husband asked for one chance to show them that he has and will continue to change and treat them equally. Kyle accepted his apology. Mason said he wants to, but he feels like it's too late for him and my husband, as he's already out of the house. My husband told Mason that he is Mason's father for life, and asked him again for just a single chance. Mason agreed that he doesn't want to not have his dad in his life, but he doesn't want to feel the pain again if he lets him in. He asked the boys what they need from him, besides making improvements in how he communicates with them. Mason said he doesn't want it to feel forced. He wants it to be genuine. Kyle wanted a hug. My husband hugged him and cried, and swore that whenever he has an event, he will put multiple alarms on his phone the second he's told about it. My husband suggested family counselling. The boys are reluctant but did agree to go, as we all want our family to heal and grow stronger. Kyle moved back into the house and said he's happy because his bed is much more comfortable than Mason's couch. We decided Saturdays will be a family day that we all spend together. My husband has said he will reach out to the boys to see if they are free to get lunch. Not much else we can do until COVID is gone. He started playing video games with the boys just as something to do to spend time with them. He gets on the mic and talks to Mason, which he said feels good to talk to him, even though they're mostly talking about stuff going on in the video game. He plans on buying Kyle the PS5 he wanted from the school event, but his therapist suggested he wait until their relationship is healed, so he knows it's a genuine gift and not an apology gift. I agree with this. And that's where we're at. My husband and I have been recommended a few family counselors from his therapist and are in the process of talking to them. He's really taking point on this. He's going to continue seeing his own therapist, as he said it's helped him in more than just this incident. I admit I still have some fears that this new attitude won't last, but this is so much more effort than he has ever put in when I mentioned his favoritism before. I'm really hopeful this is only the beginning. The boys are already much happier, and seeing all the men in my life talking and laughing together just melts my heart. This is what I wanted all these years, and I'm hopeful that with family counselling and my husband continuing his own therapy, this can be a lifelong change. Dude, I had to pause a few times reading that because I was literally crying while reading it. First, I was crying because it was really upset at the start, but that update just made me cry so much, especially as someone who never really had a family at all. This kind of thing just makes me bawl. But that's really sweet that he realized. It's upsetting that it took him so long to realize, but it is really sweet that he did realize eventually and, fix the problems and the issues that were going on. Um, Someone said, I am past 50 now. My mother's favoritism will always nag at the back of my head until the day I die. It's just like that. That's unfortunately true, I know. Um, Another person said, I get that it's not Sean's fault for how he's been treated by his father, but it does feel like he's extremely used to being the favourite, and that he's unintentionally aware of how to use it in his favour. The only thing I could think of during the first story is that Dad and Sean could have watched Kyle's award ceremony online together, and all three of them could have gotten frozen yogurt afterwards. Instead, Dad abandoned Kyle as soon as Sean asked to do something else. Some of the comments in the first post say, well, maybe Dad doesn't know he's playing favourites, but it's so blatant it's impossible to not know it. I think that Dad knew he was playing favourites, but he just thought it was okay. Like, that's just normal, that's what happens, but it's not. But yeah, that was a very wholesome update, at least, and a very nice way to end the video with our last story today. I hope you enjoyed today's video, as well as the theme and the stories, especially the last one. I know it was long, but it was really good, and I love a happy ending personally. Don't forget to leave a like or a comment if you enjoyed it, mayhaps even a subscribe if you feel so inclined. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time with some customer service horror stories. Remember that you're loved and everything is going to be okay.